2023, Trinity Madison Poague was crowned Miss Donaldsonville, a Georgia pageant title she won while preparing for her first year as a nursing student. Only 2 years later, she was sentenced to life in prison for the death of an 18-month-old boy. It all started with a pizza run. On a quiet Sunday afternoon in January 2024, a young father stepped out of a college dorm room. He expected to be gone for barely half an hour. 36 minutes later, he found his son unresponsive. Within hours, the toddler would be pronounced dead. In the days that followed, attention turned to the only other person inside that dorm room. Then, 18-year-old Trinity, the father's girlfriend. What began as a medical emergency became a homicide investigation. And nearly 2 years later, a jury would weigh medical evidence, digital messages, and conflicting accounts to decide whether this tragedy was a catastrophic accident or a crime. This is the case of Trinity Poague. Trinity arrived at Georgia Southwestern State University in August 2023 to begin her first year. By then, she had recently held the title of Miss Donaldsonville 2023, a title she would later lose following her arrest. She was described in court as academically successful, pursuing a nursing career, and in a relationship with Julian Williams, a 22-year-old father of a toddler named Romeo, Jaxon Drew Angelus, or JD for short. JD had primarily lived with Julian and his sister since infancy. When Julian visited Trinity on weekends, he often brought the child with him. But the relationship was rocky. Text messages would later show the strain. Trinity expressed resentment toward the challenges of caring for JD, sometimes in harsh language which she later called venting. Friends testified that she occasionally asked for breaks when she was overwhelmed.
What does that message say?
It says, "Why do I feel anger towards JD? Like earlier when we were in bed and JD kept touching Jay's face, I almost cried."
Your response to that, which came again just a few seconds later, and this is at the bottom of page 113.
Okay.
Your response to that was what?
What do you mean, like you feel anger towards JD, question mark?
And then her reply to you a minute later, what was what?
Like, I don't know, not jealousy, but like I want to love him, but instead of loving, I just feel like angry, like want to punch him. LMFAO, OMG, that sounds so bad.
Did she ever express her anger and to you? Did she ever express her anger in a way related to how she felt about the child?
She would say such things as, I would want to run him over with my car.
On January 13th, 2024, Julian brought JD to stay overnight at Trinity's campus dorm. At some point in the evening, JD rolled off the bed but appeared uninjured. Videos recorded by Trinity showed him awake and alert. Around 10 p.m., a suite mate saw the child behaving normally, showing no visible signs of injury. The next morning, the couple prepared lunch. JD ate chips and drank soda. He seemed fine. Then, at approximately 12:10 p.m. on January 14th, Julian left the dorm room to pick up a pizza, which would take him 35 to 36 minutes. JD remained inside with Trinity. Shortly before 1 p.m., Trinity called Julian. She told him JD wasn't breathing. When Julian returned, the toddler was limp and unresponsive. They rushed him to the nearest emergency room. JD arrived at the ER with no pulse and wasn't breathing. Doctors immediately noticed bruising on his face, forehead, neck, and cheeks. Imaging revealed a skull fracture, brain bleeding, and a severe liver laceration. Despite life-saving attempts, JD was pronounced dead roughly 3 hours after arrival. The investigation began that same day. The autopsy revealed severe injuries, a complex skull fracture, massive brain bleeding, and a liver laceration. The medical examiner determined these injuries required significant blunt force trauma. They were inconsistent with a single fall. The most critical finding was the timing. Injuries this severe would cause immediate, visible symptoms. The child would collapse within minutes, not hours later. That placed the window of injury during the 36 minutes JD was alone with Trinity. Investigators also obtained a search warrant for Trinity's phone. The text messages showed frustration about caring for JD. Her internet search history from that weekend was recovered. The messages revealed ongoing tension between Trinity and Julian about the relationship and childcare. Students in the dorm told investigators they frequently heard JD crying when left in Trinity's care.
That wasn't the first time that baby had woke you up crying, was it?
No, sir.
Actually, he cried a lot when he was there around Miss Poague, didn't he?
Yes, sir, every time.
Every time.
Yes, sir.
He actually behaved better and was calmer if, like, her roommate or somebody else was there that could help, tend to him instead of her having to do it, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
But he responded better to other people than he did to her.
Yes, sir.
The hospital's medical staff noted that Trinity told doctors JD had been not acting right and that she may have lightly shaken him. Julian initially said JD had fallen about 5 minutes before they arrived at the hospital. This timeline contradicted the medical evidence. No physical evidence in the dorm room explained how the trauma occurred. There was no weapon, no blood, and no broken furniture. A diaper that appeared to contain blood was discarded without testing. This would become a key defense argument. However, the prosecution emphasized the medical facts. The injuries couldn't be accidental. They occurred during a specific window and only one person had been alone with JD, Trinity. Nearly 2 years after JD's death, Trinity went on trial for his murder. District Attorney Louis Lamb argued Trinity had grown to resent JD. The medical evidence proved someone delivered enormous force to the child's body during the exact window she was alone with him. Defense attorney Tim Gamble described Trinity as an overwhelmed teenager in a rocky relationship. The state's case, he argued, was built on assumptions. No one could prove what actually happened in that dorm room. Dr. Michael Busman and Dr. Jill Oleg described the severe injuries. Both insisted the trauma occurred minutes before the symptoms appeared. Dr. Oleg was emphatic. There was 0% chance CPR caused the liver damage.
What was the child's condition at the time he first appeared at the ER?
He was not breathing, and then when they put him in the back, we noticed there was no heart rate either. So completely unresponsive.
Okay. And what was the extent of the injury to the back of the head?
A big occipital skull fracture, which that is on the back of the head, and I believe there was also a parietal lobe fracture, which is sort of on the side, sort of toward the middle or the side.
Dr. Anthony Clark walked jurors through the autopsy. The skull fracture, brain bleeding, and liver laceration were the result of a focused, high-impact force, not an accidental fall. Death would have occurred within seconds to minutes. The defense emphasized the gaps in the state's case. There were no eyewitnesses and no physical evidence showing how JD was injured. There were Julian's inconsistent statement and the untested diaper. They called 2 witnesses who described positive babysitting experiences with Trinity. But the prosecution pointed back to the earlier messages, the medical timeline, and the fact that only Trinity was present when it happened. Jurors saw surveillance footage, digital records, and medical imaging showing the injuries. They also saw an image of Julian's jacket, the one he wore when he rushed his son to the hospital. He has never washed it, so the stain was still visible. On December 5th, 2025, after less than 3 hours of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict.
The verdict reads as follows as to each count. On count 1, it says, "We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty On counts 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of felony murder, 2 counts, aggravated battery, 2 counts, and cruelty to child in the first degree.
Trinity was sentenced shortly after.
On count 2, I sentenced the defendant to serve life in prison. And on count 6, I sentenced the defendant to serve 20 years in the state penitentiary. Those sentences will run concurrent. I do wish to advise you, Ms. Poague, that you have 30 days to appeal. You also have 4 years within which you could seek habeas corpus. I hope this can bring some closure to the family. It's just a complete tragedy. And I hope that you can, in your older days, have some sort of life after serving this sentence. And life while you're in prison. I guess you just have to make the best of it. But that's the sentence of the court. I wish everybody the best.
While the judge sentenced Trinity to life, Georgia law dictates that she must serve a minimum of 30 years before she is considered for release. She was not found guilty of malice murder, and all parties agreed that life without parole would be too harsh. At the time of her sentencing, Trinity was 20 years old. She will be eligible for parole in 2055, when she's 50 years old. No witness saw what happened inside the dorm room. No physical evidence explained how JD sustained his injuries. But 3 doctors testified that the trauma could not have been accidental, and that it occurred while Trinity was alone with the child. And in the end, the jury agreed. If you want to learn more about this and other high-profile court cases, download the Docket Watch app. Track ongoing trials, get notifications when verdicts drop, and never miss an important development. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more cases like this and comment below which trial we should cover next.